All right, and welcome to another episode of A Safe Place to Land. My name is Olivia Peltz, and I am the host for today. And today's episode, we are talking about relationship anxiety. Now, because, Love is Blind is becoming such a thing, and it was a bit of a train wreck, I figured, let's talk about relationship anxiety and what the heck does that actually mean. If you have ever started talking with someone and it's going great, like the communication's really great, they seem really interested, their responses are really thoughtful, there's a lot of green flags, maybe some yellow, but like certainly not many red flags, it can cause this sense of anxiety of, what am I not seeing? What is actually kind of going on here? Because surely this can't be this good. And, there's some folks that even once they start talking with someone, they're like, oh my gosh, are they going to get bored of me? I feel like I have to keep this up. What do they even see in me? What if they just stop calling me? Why are they not saying certain things? All of these types of things can contribute to what we refer to as relationship anxiety. And there's a whole host of reasons as to why someone might struggle with relationship anxiety. I think the first thing that kind of comes to my mind, honestly, is someone who might have more of an anxious attachment style. So, again, kind of going back to Love is Blind season 6. I mean, you see this in pretty much every season, but specifically in season 6, you see Chelsea in particular really exemplifying and manifesting what we would refer to as an anxious attachment style. You find yourself constantly questioning the other person. So like if you have not seen Love is Blind in season 6, the most recent episode or most recent season, that is, they really show Jimmy and Chelsea this dynamic of Jimmy trying to quell and meet her where she's at. And then literally in a moment's notice, like she takes a breath and she finds something else to question. And she goes even so far as to question, do you even love me? I don't even know if you actually like me. And that kind of crosses the boundaries for Jimmy, because he's like, how can you say that? I've done all these things. I'm showing all these things to you. I'm trying to quell all of this anxiety for you. And yet it's still not enough. And so someone who has an anxious attachment style is going to already be very inclined towards having more anxiety when there is a relationship. And so with the anxious attachment style, it's this, again, kind of constant questioning of the relationship, also questioning when there isn't a secure connection, or even when there is, I guess, even when there is a secure connection, really fearing, oh my gosh, what happens if I don't do X? What happens if I don't do Y? What happens if they do that? What happens if this happens? What if that doesn't happen? Da, 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 da. All these types of things. And it's crazy making when you see it in such a hyper way, as exemplified by Chelsea on Love is Blind. It doesn't have to be as overt or obvious, though, as that. It could be as innocuous as waiting up for them to text you back and feeling anxious or insecure about the fact that you're not sure what they're doing or what might be more important than texting you back or calling you. And a lot of this attachment stuff always goes back to our primary caregivers. And it sucks, because our parents did the best that they could, and yet it wasn't enough. And that's frustrating. But it doesn't have to be that way for forever and always. It doesn't have to be that if I have an anxious attachment style, that I'm screwed and this is all that I'm going to have, or if I have an avoidant attachment style or anything like that. It's like recognizing, hey, I have a proclivity towards an anxious attachment style where if I sense a break in the relationship or in the connection, I get so anxious about whether or not repair is on the way. Because that's probably how you experienced mom and dad in some way, shape, or form growing up, was when there was a rupture or a break in the connection, you didn't know when repair was going to come, if it was going to come, how it was going to come, what it would feel like, and what you would do, and all those types of things. And so we create this kind of narrative that I have to, if I worry about it, if I'm constantly giving and doing and pleasing and saying all the right things, then they're never going to leave. But then it becomes more of a performative act. And it's kind of a backdoor way to make sure that like you get your needs met of reassurance. I'm here for you. I'm never going to leave, all these sorts of things, without being able to directly ask for those things and to rest in the security of the other person saying, I'm going to be here. This relationship matters to me. So that's one way, or one cause, if you will, of relationship anxiety. I think another one, honestly, is, past experiences. Anytime we have even the smallest amount of evidence around why we might be thinking, doing, or feeling something, our body is like, hey, this has happened. This feels familiar. It's happened in the past in some way, shape, or form. It feels familiar enough. So danger, danger, tread lightly, and it just has to be 1% similar for our bodies and our brains to consider this as a repeat offense, or it's going to end up like X, or that happened, so this is going to happen, kind of a thing. And so, it's similar to like if you have an experience with like a dog, a negative one. Maybe you get bit by a dog, or you almost got bit. Regardless, it was really scary. Moving forward, if you're not really fully aware of those things, anytime you're around a dog, you're going to feel really uncomfortable, really potentially anxious. From heart racing, sweating, shaky, all these types of things. And relationship anxiety is not dissimilar. That when you've had such a negative experience in the past of any kind of variety, when you go into another relationship and you're not fully aware, you're going to be bringing that into the new relationship. And so if you are aware, then you can understand and know, okay, these feelings feel very similar. It makes me reticent. What do I need to do to self-soothe and to tell myself this is not the same thing, this is different? And also maybe I need to be more verbal and communicative with what's coming up for me, so that this other person that I'm trying to get to know or to date or to be in a relationship with is fully aware of what's actually happening internally for me, as opposed to just noticing what's happening on the outside, which will probably look like you're pulling away. Another cause of relationship anxiety is low self-esteem. Of course, right? So anytime that we view ourselves negatively or poorly, it's going to naturally impact and affect the ways in which that we show up in relationships. Again, this is just like, we're not even talking specific to romantic relationships, even though I'm sure that's probably what you thought of when you heard relationship anxiety. But friendship, relationship anxiety can happen certainly in friendship. I have definitely experienced that in friendships where, I've had such a really difficult experience in the past with a very close friend, that when I went into new friendships that I could sense were going to find a level of depth similar to what I had in the past, it definitely caused me to be reticent and to be a little bit on edge and to be more anxious. And so again, it's like any time as an individual has any type of low self-esteem, low self-worth, any of those types of things, it's going to negatively impact that person, but also the relationship, romantically or friendship. It's going to be hard because you're never going to be able to convince yourself that you're good enough for the other person and that they're deserving of their person's love. And that's not your job as the partner to convince. If you have a partner or a friend who struggles with low self-worth, it's not your job to convince them that they're good enough, because you're never going to be able to. But just know that low self-esteem will impact and it can be a part of the cause of relationship anxiety. And of course, another cause of relationship anxiety is poor communication. So like if you suck at communicating, I'm sorry to say, like you're probably going to have some anxiety around that relationship. You're going to be worrying about your partner's affection or the future relationship, or what they're thinking, what they're feeling. How do they like X? How do they like Y? Did they like it? Did they not? All these types of things. And if you can't communicate, hey, when you do X, I feel Y, which sounds so easy and simplistic, but it's not. It's really hard. When you can't even do that, then your relationship is going to have potentially a lot of anxiety and be fairly tumultuous and unnecessarily, So it's like, if you know that there's an anxious attachment style, if you know that you've had some negative past experiences. Maybe you have struggled with low self-worth at any point in time where you suck at communicating. Like, this is a perfect recipe for mad relationship anxiety. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so the first kind of thing is like, hey, can you even recognize that there is anxiety around your relationship, right? So some signs that I find to be really helpful to think about. Have you ever wondered if your partner truly has feelings for you? Are you looking for constant reassurance? We talked about that with anxious attachment style. Are you aiming to please your significant other at any cost, sometimes to your own detriment? I.e., you suck at boundaries. You act controlling towards your partner's movements or interactions. You're consistently wanting to be around your partner. Maybe they say you're clingy, kind of like Jimmy did to Chelsea in Love is Blind. You hold doubts about your compatibility. You overanalyze simple words and actions, just looking for signs of trouble, like you're making a mountain out of a molehill kind of a thing. You constantly feel like your partner intends to call off the relationship, whether or not that's true or not. That's just your anxiety speaking. You spend more time worrying about the relationship than actually enjoying the relationship. So if any of those kinds of sound, oh gosh, Olivia, like that sounds kind of maybe like me, you probably, one, should get your butt into therapy. Sooner than later, or you're going to find that your relationship is going to implode or explode. And that never sucks. Or that always sucks. It's never fun. So how do you combat this? Like, how do we work towards overcoming relationship anxiety? One, you have to communicate your feelings, my dudes. Like, you have to be able to say, hey, when you do X, I feel Y. Or, hey, this feels not good. Or, ouch, that feels uncomfortable. Or, oh, that hurt my feelings, right? You have to be able to communicate your internal landscape to the outside world. And it's not that you need to be so descriptive or in-depth about these things. But like at a top level, can you communicate what you're experiencing in this relationship, what's happening between you and the other person? Can you enjoy the present is another thing. Like if you can't enjoy what's happening right now in the moment of the relationship and you're constantly finding yourself in the future or you're stuck in the past, then in some real sense, the person that's standing in front of you is just a representation of either your past hurt or your greatest fears. And they cease to be the actual person in front of you. So like, deal with your shit so you can be in a relationship that is actually healthy and has depth and meaning and significance. You have to be able to confront your anxiety. So like if you're not even aware that there is anxiety, but other people are telling you that and you're like, no, it's fine. I'm fine. Whatever. I'll just like think harder about it, or I'll just drink more caffeine, or I'll just like drink more, whatever. That you're just spinning your wheels. There's no amount of trying more, doing more, thinking less, having a rubber band on your wrist and thumping yourself, or like, popping yourself, whatever. Like if you just want to do behavior modification, you're going to get behavior modification results, which is putting a Band-Aid on something that really needs deep surgery. And so you have to be able to get your butt into therapy and to do some hard work of understanding, how did I get here and what do I do about it? What are my patterns in terms of relationships? Do I always go towards people who are really closed off and avoidant? Do I always tend to go towards people who are overly emotional and clingy? Do I whatever? Like understand the patterns of relationships that you tend to find yourself in, the ways in which pattern-wise that you behave in relationships. Do they all end the same way? Do you date only for a certain amount of months? Whatever it is, the more you know, the more that you can change your current and your future, and the less you will be defined by your past. And you'll be able to move into a space of actually being informed of your past so that you can be in control of your present and your future over where you're going in your relationship and not being ridden with relationship anxiety. So again, like some causes of relationship anxiety are things like anxious attachment style, past negative experiences, low self-esteem, and sucking at communicating. So like how to get better at and overcoming relationship anxiety is talk, use your words, like work on communicating your feelings, confront your anxiety, notice, is this my stuff or is this the other person's stuff? Or am I making it the other person's stuff? Get your butt into therapy, and deal with your own issues. Because otherwise, if you don't, you will continuously be defined by your past and your past experiences, whether positively or negatively. And again, This is for romantic relationships just as much as it is for friendships. And people don't talk about it that much, but relationships are really hard in general. And then when, you throw sex and romantic feelings and it gets really weird really fast, or it can. But at the heart of it, relationships are relationships. And if you suck as a friend, you're probably going to suck as a lover. And who wants to be terrible at those things? Because we are so hardwired, according to Brene Brown, for belonging, acceptance, and the sense of being known. And so if I am terrible at connecting to other people, then perhaps I'm the common denominator. And I can do some work on myself so that way I can find more depth in relationships, more significance and more meaning in relationships that will in turn change and heal the parts of me that need to be changed and that need to find some healing. Because as Hervel Hendricks says, where we are wounded in relationship, that is also where we find healing. And I love that, because we're not made to be alone. We're not made to be hermits, but we're made to be in connection and in close proximity to other people with appropriate boundaries. So if you found this helpful, please share it. Subscribe to the channel. We're over on YouTube as well. If you like to see my cute face and feel like we're having coffee together, then that would be the place to do that. But until then, I hope that you can take just a few moments and find some introspection and to ask yourself those hard questions of, am I making the things in my relationship a thing? And first, are they a thing? Or is it a lot of my own stuff bubbling up to the surface that I'm just not willing to confront? And if so, what might need to shift and change in order for this relationship to really flourish and to really blossom and to really be something that feels significant and that it has meaning? All right, I'm going to get out of here. You guys take care. See ya. Bye.